Alright, enough talking about the timeline. I was talking about making levels, so I'm gonna show you that. I think first I'll just run through the entire level I made so far, and then later on I'll show you why I did it and how I did it. So I'm gonna run, and there's a little gap here, and there's some collectibles you can collect. I'll explain why I put everything at the places that I did. Piece by piece, kind of section by section. For now, I'll just run through the stage so you can kind of get a feel for the whole layout of the level I made so far. There's a little section where you can go down here. And this first section of the game is going to be the introduction, so I kind of want to teach the player the basics. It's not going to be too challenging. It's just going to be an introduction to the game. The player won't really know what's going on, so I want to kind of not give too much time. I don't want to let the player dwell around the level too long with all these questions about what the game is about. I want to move to it really quickly. Yeah, there's some placeholder art here. I still need to make the palette for these things, so it looks really funky. It's gonna look really cool, don't worry. So yeah, this is the end of the stage that I made so far. It actually took me 6 hours to make this, and you can run through it in like 1 minute. I need to really brush up my level design skills and be a lot faster if I want to finish this game. So yeah, the first thing the player sees is this hole in the ground and these collectibles. The reason I put this here is I want to teach the player that you can jump. So if you run here and you see these collectibles, you want to collect them. The player won't just run into them, so you need to jump. And in case the player still didn't figure out you can jump, there's a hole here, and the only way to get out is to press the jump button. So yeah, probably the player will start pressing all the buttons and then, oh damn, I can jump. And then he will figure out you can jump to collect these collectibles. Then there is another section here, and this shows kind of how high you can jump. So you can see that the player can make it across bigger gaps. So maybe the player is not that experienced and tries to jump and comes short. Well, at least he won't die. There's no pit here, so he can just try again. And this little ledge is higher than the last one, so hopefully the player will learn that if you press the button longer, that you can jump higher. So you can jump across here. And the way I did all of this is just using the tile tool, so I can kind of make tiles like this. And if I want to kind of test how high the player wants to jump, maybe I want to teach the player to jump really high, I can just edit it in the game. I don't have to stop playing the game. So that was too high. Let's try a little bit lower. Yeah, that's just about right, but still a bit too challenging. So maybe I want to put it even lower. And yeah, this seems like a good little challenge for the player. So yeah, that way I can just edit the levels on the fly and test them really well. Then there is this next section, and this is with one-way platforms. You can see that the color is different. It's purple, and hopefully the player can see, oh, this is a different type of environment than this solid thing. And I placed this just about far enough that if the player jumps, he cannot quite reach it, and he will probably end up walking under it. And then you will see, oh, I can actually walk through these purple tiles. And there's no way to go further. There's a wall here which you cannot get up, it's too high. So the player is forced to kind of figure out that you can jump through this platform and land on top. And if this is still too difficult for the player, they can use this little ledge here to get up. And there's ledges at different heights, so the player can kind of get a feeling for how high the player can jump. So if you try to jump on this top one all the way from the bottom, that's too high. But if you try again, you can see you can jump on this ledge, so the player can kind of see how high he can jump. And if this is even too high, the player haven't figured out how to get on top of this, you can use this ledge and then this ledge. And then there's another gap that's a little bit more difficult than the last one. So the player really has to practice his jumping skills to get further. So you can jump from down here or you can jump from here. And that kind of teaches the player that you can kind of approach these gaps from different angles and different places. Then there is a drop gap here, so the player can learn that you can get further if you jump downwards. And if you can't make it, you press jump too late or whatever, you fall down here, you can use these steps to get up again. That's probably what the player just learned in the last section. And then I just wanted to make a combination of everything to give the player a little bit of a challenge. So if you want to jump on top of here, you can see it's too high. And you can either jump up from here, or if that's still a little bit too difficult, you can also try from here or even from here. And then there's some floating platforms here. That's just to give the player a little bit of a challenge. And then you land here, and this is the section that I don't like. I think I will change this later, but I wanted to show some type of downwards movement. And I also want to teach the player that you can actually drop down these platforms. The way I was hoping to do that is to it's kind of slow to walk this way, and I hope the player will try to kind of cheat and wants to drop down, but it's not very intuitive, so I kind of want to change this. I'm not yet sure, I'll do that later. And then here is another little bit of a challenge. You just saw those branches, so you can see that you can stand on them, and I wanted to give the player a little more of a challenge. So in this case, if you stand still, you just can't make it, and hopefully the player can see all this white space and kind of take a running start, and then he can learn that if you run, you can jump a little bit higher. And if the player still didn't figure that out, they can use this ledge as a last resort to get up here. And then we go into the next section, and this has a little slope. That's just to show the player their slopes into the game, and it kind of shows the player how the character behaves, so they can see, oh, the player kind of sticks to this slope when you walk down. And you can also slide down, but I don't think most players will figure that out. I think I want to introduce that at a later point in the stage. I don't want to overwhelm the player with too many different things. And then there's another wall that's too high, but since there's no other way up, I think the player will kind of touch the wall, and they will see this wall jump animation, this wall sliding animation. And I think they will kind of button mash, and they will end up wall jumping, so they can either make it up this way, or if they're smart, they can jump to the other wall and get up like this. And at this point, I kind of covered all the basic mechanics, and I just want to give the players something interesting. So there's some floating platforms here. I want to put some more decorations here and make it look cool and mysterious. Right now everything's still really blank. I don't want to add too many decorations, since that slows the level design progress down a lot. So this is just a little challenge to combine some things you've learned. I think this might be a little bit too challenging. I might remove this, but at here you have to wall jump to this branch, and then you can get up. I don't want the player to get stuck in the first level of the game, so I think I'm gonna change this section as well. Then you go down here, there's some more slopes, and then there is a little gate, and yeah, the colors, I need to fix the colors, but it's gonna look really cool later on. Then there's some lanterns here with some parallax going on, and yeah, this is supposed to look really cool later on, really atmospheric. Then the player moves further, and there's a mysterious section here, and this is where there's gonna be a cutscene. There's gonna be a bird here that I drew, and it's gonna talk to the player. It's gonna give you something. You guys can think what it might be, but yeah, this is the level I have so far. So what did you think of the level layout I made so far? Are there some things that you think are too challenging, or some things you think the player won't understand? Let me know in the comments. The next thing I'm gonna work on is design the pieces that I didn't like, and then I want to make everything look pretty, add trees, add the moving trees, the moving leaves that I made really early on. I want to make this cutscene, and then there's gonna be a new section with some different mechanics, and once the player did that, they can move on to the next stage. So let me know what you guys think. Yeah, I'm glad I can finally move on to making stages. It took way too long. I was working on the editor for way too long, and I had to do some freelance work in order to survive, basically. So I had to push Melody to the side, but I'm glad I can finally start making the actual game now. So yeah, let me know what you think of the video. Comment, share, all that stuff, and hopefully I'll see you guys again next week with some cool, more level content. Thanks for watching, and see you guys again soon.